beautiful being. I know I turned the Wi-Fi on, but it was just a bit bumpy, so I'm just going to make sure that it really has woken up. I'm out here, it's a bit windy, and I'm not planning to stay out here, but I don't want you to miss what is actually out here. So here's our first little performer. It's this beautiful red rose. I love the shape of these. They're always so perfectly formed. Yeah, see, it's windy. And we have iceberg roses. This bush is so old. I mean, look how old it is, right? Morning, Mike. Excuse me, I got an itchy nose. I don't want to sneeze. Because we want to always, where that leads to is more sneezes. Stop it. But there is the iceberg rose being beautiful. And look at this. The magnolia's got an unseasonal flower on it, which is just really, you know, it's what this magnolia does. We have a whole lot of Japanese anemones still, which is really nice. You know, they just keep going and going and going. And fortunately, the dry spell has kind of broken, so they're no longer dehydrated. And we have the first autumn crocus coming out here, which is always a bit of an event because they just pop up out of nowhere and they're beautiful. Quite a contrast with the blue commelina, but that's going to happen more because look at all the babies that got seeded last year. Next year they'll be bigger. So we have autumn crocus. Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, everybody. I don't know who all of you are, but it's just delicious to have you with us. And here we have the Luculia. It's coming to an end, but it's still got some flowers on it. Let's get some focus on this. So you can, there you go. See the detail on that? I love these flowers. They're just beautiful. And the leaves, look at, you know, red stems. And they're these big, luxurious leaves that get chewed. But they're just glorious. I love this. So there's nothing about this plant I don't like. It's just every part of it is beautiful. We have the odd rose on the Wilhelm bush. This is an old rose. In both ways, it's a, you know, not historic, it's a heritage plant. Come on, focus, please. Camera, sort it out. It still keeps looking at the background. No, I can't get it sharp for you, I'm sorry. And we have willow gentians, which against the golden feverfew look really beautiful. And so it's all happening here. Oh look, there is a fresher Luculia flower. It's just glorious. And see, there's one that's only just coming out, so it really does keep going for a long time, and I love that about it. And we have a few late flowers on the compassion rose as well. This one, you see there's lots of rose hips, and I leave them on because they just are lovely through the winter. What else have we got? Late fuchsia flowers. They don't look like terribly much on the camera, but I enjoy them. Oh, and look, the sweetheart rose is such a pretty thing. Again, trying to get, there we go, sharp focus for you. I just love this. So, yeah, little roses. Oh, look, we have a red katydid or a cricket. I don't even know exactly what it is, but see, we've got a little friend there. So there's nothing missing. And what else have we got? We have mad coriander that's going to seed everywhere, which is the plan. See, it's starting to get ripe. The seeds turn brown. I'm going to give some to my neighbour who wants to have heaps of coriander to cook with. You just throw it around and let it grow, and then you're never without it. And we have, as you can see, oh, hang on, watch my feet. We still have dahlias. Though the plants are getting older, I'm just coming out here so we can see these ones. They're a bit chewed, they're a bit weathered, but they're still fabulous. So there we go. I'm going to go inside now, go for a little walk up the path. Oh, nearly forgot the most important thing, the reason why I thought I had to show you this. Because it's supposed to rain tomorrow, so I don't want you to miss out. Look at these, just en masse, flowering. And you have to imagine the scent, which is very sweet. Oh, and the other fabulous thing, I did the mulching! There's no mulching pile, there's just a pile of big pieces of wood that don't go through the mulcher. But look at this. It's pretty awesome. I really love these flowers. Every year they come up. And there is another pile here, which I transplanted. It's quite big, but when you move them, they get upset. So this is its first ever flower head in this location. So that's exciting. Now, going to go back into the house and sit down and talk about our topic of the day, which is bad dreams, right? Ibrahim, it's lovely to see you, and I am just fine. Just go in the door and shut the door. My husband can be in peace and quiet in the other room. He shares me. He is such a blessing. But, well, you know, he shouldn't have to listen to me rave on unless he wants to. So, now, just propping this up and getting myself comfortable. Okay, so, today I want to talk about bad dreams because there's been a conversation going on about bad dreams. And I thought I'd take a punt at this topic myself. Because the thing about dreams is that most of the time people want to understand them. You know, you have this weird series of images and you wake up, you know, And by the way, I had my share of nightmares when I was younger, and I used to wake up and they were quite recurring, you know. I mean, it's the typical thing of being chased and, you know, your steps would get slower and slower and slower, and there was a gate and I could never make it to the gate, and I used to wake up you know, feeling all that fear, basically, and I would actually see things, like I was hallucinating, and I thought, you know, I used to, back in those days, I was a bit religious, and I used to wonder if, you know, it was like a pair of eyes, and they were red and they were green, I think, I can't remember now, see, it's not me anymore, but, you know, that used to happen over and over and over, and I understand now. Julian, good morning, England. I understand now, because I, you know, I'm older. I've observed a few things. Nightmares happen when the autonomic nervous system is unbalanced, and they're also a way for things that are buried in us or that we're not conscious of to say, hello, here I am. You might not be aware of me consciously, but when your conscious mind is out of the way, I'm going to come up out of the murk and say hi. So, you know, I probably, if I had known about dream interpretation back then, it wouldn't have been too hard to figure out. I was scared. I felt something was chasing me. But, well, if you'd asked me in those days what I was afraid of, I couldn't have told you. My life was just stressful, but I wasn't even aware of that. So, we can run around in tight circles trying to figure out what a dream means. And, you know, there are people who've written books about dream interpretation. There's whole science about it. Excuse me, I'm too warm because I went for a walk before I did this. And I got warmed up. And what I have learned, guess who I learned it from? My inspiration, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he really is the only embodied human being alive that I wish to emulate. This is what he says. He says, look, pay attention to the emotion in the dream. Don't worry about the story. Don't worry about the thing. You know, whatever it was, notice the emotions. Now, why would he say that? Because emotions, remember, when you have a thought, a series of neurons fires in your brain. There's an electrical activity there, but for the electrical activity to go from neuron to neuron, you need neurotransmitters. And there are many different kinds of neurotransmitters, and there's many different blends of neurotransmitters. You know, so many shades of green, right? But in a whole rainbow. So many colours, so many possibilities for how we're feeling. And the particular batch of chemistry that gets whipped up in your brain by having a thought is very specific to the thought. And the neurotransmitters that happen here directly influence how your body feels here, so that you feel exactly the way you were just thinking. That's just how it is. Jen! Yeah, I reckon it's your new energy, Julian, because you know, the pineal gland wakes up and the chemistry. Dreaming is not bad. Dreaming is healthy. But when they're bad dreams, to me, it shows that there's something that's disrupting the system. So you have a thought and you have the chemistry, and the chemistry makes you feel the way that you were just thinking. Now, This is a thing that happens when people start, it happens quite often, I shouldn't say all the time, quite often when people start doing the meditation work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. And this post is about people who are doing that work and have Pandora's box open, which is what he says happens. And I've seen it. And, I've certainly listened to him answer questions from people who've had it happen, I'm doing the work. Exactly the thing we're talking about now. This guy on Dr. Joe Live, it was last month. I'm doing the work and now I'm having all these nightmares. What's the deal? Well, because as you start to wake yourself up and get tuned in and get coherent, what happens is the stuff that's buried in you starts to surface so that you can keep working to bring coherence to something that has been very incoherent. Now, what do I mean by that? If you've never heard those words before, how do I explain this without taking half an hour? An incoherent thought is really an unhappy or a confused or an unpleasant, uncomfortable thought. And notice as soon as I say that, I'm talking about how it feels. Incoherent feelings feel bad. Coherent feelings feel good. I think that's all I'm going to say. Incoherence is actually about what your brain is doing. It's about whether the different parts of the brain are talking to each other or not. Carmelina, good morning. And if they're not, trust me, you feel bad. You feel confused. You feel at 6 and 7s you can't think straight. You want to climb the wall. If your brain is coherent, then you have clarity and you have peace. If your heart is coherent, you feel good. If your heart is incoherent, trust me, you don't. You feel stressed. So, if you wake up from a dream feeling good, then you're having coherent thoughts and feelings and they're manifesting themselves in that dream. Christopher, good morning! And if you wake up from a dream and you're feeling awful, those are incoherent thoughts and incoherent feelings, which means your brain and your heart have become incoherent while you weren't awake to suppress whatever was, has come up. And there it is, kaboom. And so, there is a thought and a feeling, a repressed memory or a not repressed memory, a thing that you really are all over and know is in your face all the time, but you can't deal with it, right? It just sits there and festers. And you go to sleep and, your conscious mind isn't there trying to keep it all under control. And so it comes up and you have a nightmare. And so it's very natural for us to think, well, that was a horrible picture. No. But all that's happening is because you've got that incoherent firing going on in your brain and that really uncomfortable chemistry, which makes you feel scared or angry or depressed or forsaken or betrayed or whatever it is. It kind of works in reverse. You have the feeling and your brain actually goes looking for images and pictures and some kind of story to put around the feeling. And the story may make no sense because the brain is just randomly grabbing stuff that can try to wrap around what the feeling is. This is my understanding of what happens. This is why it doesn't make sense. So this is a really powerful, this is a long-term refractory period, Carrie. And, your body is throwing the kitchen sink at you saying, come on, you can stay in this shit because this is what I'm used to. Carrie knows what I'm talking about. Our bodies resist change. They do. We want to feel better. But as soon as we actually start feeling better, something comes along, whatever it is. So, no. You come back where I know how to feel and what to do. The body is resisting something that's new. So somehow you got to find a way to break out of that. And that's what I really want to talk about. This is the emotional state, right? And it persists because it's powerful, because it relates to trauma or some very difficult experience that happened over and over and over again, whatever it is. The dream is long gone. This is a really powerful fact that I learned from Dr. Joe. When you have an emotional reaction to something, doesn't matter what it is, that emotional reaction from you thinking the thought and having the chemistry lasts from 90 to 120 seconds. After 2 minutes, we are keeping it going, which is like oh my freaking God. How can I stop this when I can't think greater than I'm feeling. This feeling is overwhelming. And it's because the body is so conditioned to it and accustomed to it. And it's really challenging. And sometimes you know, like you're experiencing, Kerry, it really is a time to not beat up on yourself and realise that this is a deep, dark, nasty monster that's been living inside you all this time. It's not that suddenly it's got worse. This has actually happened because you're getting better. But this is the thing that's been, you know, driving a lot of stuff. This is the kind of tip of the next iceberg. And however long it takes you to kind of dance with this thing and find your way through it, that's okay. Don't beat up on yourself. And also don't get scared. Don't get scared because it's hard. This is a really powerful, strongly programmed state that's in your body, right? Luna, it's great to see you. Your mind is not your body. And so you're trying to find a reason, you know, or to try and make sense of it, although I don't think you are actually, I think you know better. You know, but we try to work it out so that we can feel better, but that's not the thing to do. The thing to do is realise I've got a crappy feeling. I have to do something to change how I'm feeling. And that can be very, very difficult if the feeling is really, really deep. And I had that happen, I think it was on Friday, where I spent, because I didn't have time until, actually I went to bed. I didn't have time. And I also didn't realise what I needed to do. It was like, I was banging my head against my own inner brick wall for most of the day, just reacting to everything, wanting to, you know, knowing that this was my shit. And that I did not want to dump it on anybody around me, which I was tempted to do. But it wasn't that person's thing. It was my shit, and I knew it. So, but I couldn't figure out, you know, I just couldn't break it. And I worked at it. I really did. I worked at it and was like, oh, you know, I can bring this down a bit. Which, by the way, is a victory. If you can bring it down from 10 to 9, that's awesome. You got to start celebrating your little bits of progress when it's that hard. It's okay if you just go from 10 out of awful to 9 out of slightly less awful, right? We have to realise when you're fighting a big monster, it's okay if it takes a while. And it was only when I got to bed and I was still in chaos. And I thought, I am going to be awake for hours if I don't shut this down. And it finally came to me. Okay. You know, because I've been working with brain coherence, I've been working with heart coherence, I've been opening my focus, I've been trying to generate elevated emotions, I've been doing all that stuff, and it was kind of, like I said, it was bringing it down a little bit, but it wasn't really breaking through the thing. And I finally realised, oh, Maddie, do the breath. And it's a breath that you learn from Dr. Joe. And it literally releases energy from the body that's stuck there. And it was stuck there. And I lay in bed, and I mean, you normally do it sitting up, but I've worked out how to do it lying down because I've had this problem before. And I did it 3 times. It takes passion. It's very energetic, but it literally moves the energy from the bottom energy centers where it gets stuck in the survival centers and the I got to fight or run or flee, you know. It gets stuck there, you move it up, you push it back up into your brain. I did it 3 times. I went to sleep. For me, that was the thing. I finally, you know, and the next time I'm like that, I will remember finally that if I'm in that bad a state, I got to do the breath. So, but you know, I struggled with it for most of the day. I did. And I'm remembering the story of a beautiful young man who stood up on, you know, for a good half hour on the stage at one of the most recent workshops that Dr. Joe has run. And he was 21. He lived in Florida, or somewhere close to Florida, and was at the school in the Valentine's Day shooting. You know, I think there were 17 of his classmates, close friends, got shot. It's traumatic. He already had issues with depression before that, but after that he got very, very depressed. He was suicidal, the whole 9 yards. But he made a decision he didn't want to take his life. Because a good friend of his did take her life, and he thought, no, I'm not going to do that to the people I love. So it was like, okay, what am I going to do? Long story short, he discovered Dr. Joe's work, he got into it, and he talks about the fact that for a good year, a lot of days he had, like he said, I had to watch 45 minutes of testimonials to uplift my energy just to state where I could do 5 minutes of meditation because my density was so deep. It's like he just said, if you're going to drive from one coast of the US to the other, it doesn't matter if you're going fast or slow, you just got to keep your foot on the accelerator, you just got to keep going. So his thing was, I just got to do something, even if it was 1 minute. And some days it was easy and some days it was really, really hard. And a lot of days he would meditate and he would go from 0 maybe to 1. It was just a little incremental thing, and he understood it was a long-term thing because he'd been really depressed for a long time. So I think, when the emotions are really dense and it's really hard, we can beat up on ourselves because the things that we've done before that work, and they should and they do, don't work at that time. It's like, well, what's wrong with me and why can't I do this and does it not work for this, But to realise that the little gains that we make are something to appreciate and to love ourselves for. And sometimes you really have to learn to love yourself in a bad state. You actually have to accept, hey, this is hard and I'm not giving into it. That's amazing. If you're not giving into it, Carrie, 4 days later, you haven't given into it. You're not just saying, oh, this is who I am, I can't change this. It's like, I'm still trying, I can't break out of it. But you haven't just given in and gone, oh, woe is me. That is amazing. Because think about how it would have been once upon a time. So you got to love on yourself a little bit. And it's very, very hard with depression to think greater than you feel. And, you don't always get the reward of the breakthrough immediately. And don't sweat if you don't. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to keep going and realise that you are tunneling through a big old mountain of your old rock. And it's challenging, but you got to keep going because sooner or later you're going to break through. It's a deep conditioning in yourself and your body. It's saying, hey, I want to stay like this. This is familiar to me. I modified my cell receptor sites for you and now you want me to be different? Well, it took me a while to modify them this way. It's going to take me a while to modify them this way. You got to keep banging on that genetic door. So my feeling about being in that situation, you just got to keep trying things. And if the things that you're trying don't work, don't just keep banging your head against that brick wall. Try something else. Do something different. It doesn't matter what, but do something different. Break the pattern, break the habit, break the format. Do something to disrupt things. Even if you just, grab the pen with your left hand and try to write with it. Do something different. Anything. So you're not just carrying on being your old self. So, for what it's worth, that's what I wanted to say. Don't analyse the dream, the content, the story of it. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Deal with the feelings. Overcome the feelings. Change them step by increment, by little bit. Climb out of that deep, dark pit and you will find the edge of it. And you'll find you a stronger, different, more enlightened, more empowered version of yourself as you do it. It's the overcoming, it's the hard times when you overcome yourself that you really end up treasuring. No, you're not a failure, Carrie. You're a huge freaking success. This is success, okay? Trust me, this is success. You didn't quit. That's success. I'm so excited for you. You just keep climbing. And anybody else who's in that place, keep climbing. When you don't give in, the smallest steps are the biggest victory. Spoken by a man who knows what he's talking about. Big love. I'm so proud of you all. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.